Great, thank you very much, Warren. I know we have a short amount of time. I first wanted to thank Robin, Raskin, and Carrie Christensen of Living in Digital Times, as well as Warren and Children's Technology Review, and thank you very much, Darren, for your help, too. As Warren mentioned, I've been following the virtual world space for a long time. In fact, I started gathering data in 2007. And I have, in some cases, up to 6 years of compiled data for many of the leaders in the virtual world space. But I thought I'd start with this one slide, if PowerPoint would help. You know, this isn't Microsoft helping me again. Come on. Is it up there? Darn it.
It was up there.
I'm just going to do this. Let's see if I can do this. Come on.
It's up.
What?
It's up.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm looking at it differently here. All righty. So in trying to assess how big the virtual world space is, I've been crunching numbers on, to date, 556 virtual worlds and MMOs. Not only in the kids space, but also in the adult space. So what you're looking at here is growth over the last 2 years in terms of total unique traffic within the United States. You'll see it oftentimes peaks within the summer months. This past July, it reached 110 million uniques. There was a bit of a dip, which is common in September as kids are going back to school. And currently, the trend is swinging upward, but you can see how much of the growth there is year over year here. Actually could compile this chart going 6 years back, and it's pretty amazing to see how much growth there is overall. And if I can switch to this next slide. In the press release that's going out today, I picked out 4 stories about how growth, successes, and failures have been going in the virtual world space. I teased out just 4 areas: role play and fantasy, creative expression, toys, TV, film, and books. And role play and fantasy, the number here ends in September and continues to skyrocket after this, is the largest growth segment of the virtual world and MMO space. Thanks in large part to Wizard 101, and now they have Pirates 101 coming out as well. In the creative expression space, they have been growing quite nicely. I think the percentage in the press release is 36% over the last year. And the leaders in that space are, which may be a bit of a surprise for everyone, Minecraft, Roblox, and Woo's World, virtual world out of Montreal, that all focus on creative expression as their primary hook. Toys and film and TV books have faltered quite a bit, more than 50% in the last year. This includes 4 out of 5 virtual worlds for Disney that are TV, film related. And in the toy space, there's been a lot of carnage, and largely because of Lego Universe. So just that as a backdrop, I have a virtual world report that is available with some information in it, and a larger report that's available for sale as part of the consulting services that I offer in this space. But now with that said, let me lead into our panelists today. First, Dr. James Bauer from Numedeon, who is the founder of Yville, one of the older, if not oldest, virtual worlds currently active today. And I'm sorry, I got to pronounce this correctly. Daniel Lockney from NASA, the program specialist for technology. And Alexander
Zan.
O'Leary, Zan, as she goes by, from the COO of Geopalz. And Fred Howard, the VP of Marketing for KingsIsle and Wizard 101. So each of them have provided me with some materials. If Microsoft will cooperate with me here, I will jump out again and go to this video clip here. And the audio is going to be ready, I'm told. If you can turn up the audio. You can hear it? Okay. Yep. And here we go.
Scott, the red line is actually the growth of our unique visitors on a monthly level.
Wow. following the Wizards' traffic over the many years is pretty impressive. Some pretty impressive stuff there, if you would like to say briefly just a little bit about the video and the fact that now you have Pirate 101.
Sure, so just a little bit. So Wizard 101 launched in September of 2008. As Scott showed the traffic, we actually peaked this summer at over 20 million unique visitors per month off of just the US launch alone, so that's not including our European or our Asian launch. And then Pirate 101, which is our second major MMO, launched this October in 2012, and has already garnered over 1 million registered players and is growing at a very rapid pace.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Fred. There's also, I have an interview with some of your teammates on my 360 Kid blog if you're interested. They've done some pretty fabulous work. So let me see here. Now I'm going to switch to Yville if I have the right thing here. And Dr. Jim Bauer, you could share a little bit with us, and I'll advance your presentation here.
Great. So this is about Yville. Next slide. Which is actually the first up virtual world, first browser-based virtual world, launched in last decade, actually last century, 1999. The next slide. It's also the first not only was it the first browser-based virtual world, it was also the first virtual world for kids, and the first educational, and still one of the very few learning-based educational virtual worlds. That's our growth chart. Important point about that slide is that that's with no marketing. So we've spent not a penny on marketing over those years. We're about 7.5 million registered users now. Next slide. It's a very complicated place. There's no way I can describe it to you in 2 minutes. How many of you actually know about Yville to begin with? Great. So the best way to find out about Yville is to go there and ask a kid. There are many, many different activities, at this point hundreds. Next slide. Sponsored by sort of a growing number of sponsors. I like to say we're more PBS than PBS. We run from the Getty, which has been working with us for years now with a virtual Getty Museum and lots of art education, all the way across to our latest sponsor, which I'm actually announcing today, which is ACT, the educational testing company, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Typically, the way that we work is because it's a virtual world and everything is integrated together. When we take on a task, like for example, doing something about the nutrition problem in the world, and certainly in the United States and developed countries, this is the sort of panoply at the moment of organizations that are working with us on trying to do something about the nutrition problem. As you can see, it's pretty diverse. The next slide. Because it's an educational website, although it started as an informal educational website. where most of our, in 1999, it turns out most people didn't know games were going to be powerful or that social learning was going to be powerful or that any of that was going to change schools forever. The change schools forever part is still coming, but people are more aware of the fact that it's likely to do that. Y-Power, about a year and a half ago, we put our kids in charge of actually managing the Yville power grid, which they now do. Every week they make a decision as a community as to which sources they're going to use to power Yville. And if they blow it, we brown out, which it turns out for a 12-year-old is a serious thing. If you brown out the virtual world because you didn't manage properly, it turns out to be a rather serious social problem. The next slide just says that Y-Power now actually is in schools. It's part of a curriculum involving career pathways. We decided that 8-year-olds, once they played in Y-Power and decided they wanted an energy career, might want to talk to real career counselors. It turns out that there are no real career counselors for 8th grades. It turns out the best career counselors in the world are in community colleges, so we now have a system that allows an individual kid, say in San Antonio, Texas, if they indicate an interest in some energy career, to be linked to the local community college career counselor. This is first CES announcement. We launched 2 days ago with ACT, an actual first effort to use Yville as a way that kids can formally understand something about career paths, and their parents can understand something about career paths, and eventually their parents can understand what path from 8th grade on their kids could use to effectively get a real career. The other CES announcement we actually have the Android version now of an app which is built around the avatar selection process. We already have loaded 1 million kids-made parts from which kids make their own avatars. And using this app, kids will be able to make their own avatars on the app, upload it to Yville. They'll also be able to see when their friends on Yville change their constellation of parts on their faces, et cetera. And there are lots of back and forth tie-ins between the virtual world and the app, which I think are pretty innovative. And that's it. Anyone wants to talk to me about it, I'm happy to talk about it.
Thanks, Jim, and I know we'll probably get back to it in a moment, that there's an awful lot of data that Jim has collected over the years, research related to the learning that's gone on within Yville. We'll touch on that in a moment. And now Zan and Geopalz.
Great, thank you. Happy to be here. So we basically created a brand new product. They're called iBits. They're little wireless fitness keys, and our goal is basically to unlock virtual worlds. We've launched our product, which is going to be delivered in April. And the general idea is that kids actually get to wear this product and use their steps to power levels in games. So it's taking that real physical activity and actually tying it into gaming and gamification, and actually having them still love to play their games, but they actually need physical activity to drive those. You can do next slide. It comes with a little Tamagotchi-like character. So remember those little characters you had to keep alive and play with it all the time? So we did this basically on the iOS system. The actual device syncs via Bluetooth Low Energy to iOS devices. And the kids actually all the kids these days have the hand-me-down phones, they have the iPod shuffles, they've got all these little gadgets that they love to play with. And unfortunately, it's really consuming, and there's nothing really out there to help power them and help them realize that physical activity is still very important. So this character kind of lives in this little world. He wakes up lethargic in the morning, and you actually have to take physical steps in order to power him up. He gets to play games using his steps as well. And the great thing about our product is we actually teamed with a whole bunch of game developers that are now incorporating our API, our STEP API, into their games so that kids can actually get new jetpacks or get new tokens based on how many steps they've taken in the real world. We developed, you can go back one slide just really quick. Sorry. We also developed an app for parents. It's called the Unity app. It's basically the same product, but tying family fitness together. Kids on their own aren't really encouraged to be physically active unless the parents are involved. So we created an application that actually syncs all of the kids' devices within the family. So the parents can actually see a lot of detail about how many calories they've burned based on their physical activity, how many miles they've walked, the distance. They can form groups. They can form running groups. This is also great for schools, so the PE teachers can actually have devices for all the kids and see an aggregated view of how many steps the kids are taking, as well as individual data. And not only just in schools, but outside of school. So what happens when they get home? Are they on their devices? Are they on their couches? Are they in their virtual worlds? So we're kind of tying the two things together, making physical activity fun and gamification, and making it a game. And that's kind of our product.
Great, thank you very much, Zan.
Thank you.
And next up is Daniel from NASA, and I'm very excited to hear what you have to share. I'm a long-term fan, and I've been aware of Moonbase Alpha for a number of years, but I imagine you have other things happening now.
We do. Thanks. It's great to be here. This is such cool stuff you guys are doing. This is really neat. I was sitting there feeling insecure, and I was like, I don't have any cool stuff. And I was like, well, we went to the moon.
Oh, no, you got
So we got that. So that all right, fine. But yeah, this is really cool stuff you guys are doing. We have a ton of content at NASA. We do have an MMO that was developed using some of our lunar data called Moon, Mars, and Beyond. There's a bunch of kids using it now, learning how to engage in team building exercises to do some moon surface repairs of a simulated moon station. Lunar station, and it's kind of a neat game. It's free. You can get online, and it's, even if you only spend a minute on it, bouncing with the astronaut in microgravity is super cool. We have this content that we create, that we generate, that we get from all around the solar system. We've got incredible maps of Mars and the Moon and of Earth even, and it's all free. And we're looking for people to partner with to help us find ways to turn it into better, more engaging educational content. We have a ton on our website. You can check it out, nasa.gov, and it's a cool website. You look around the educational content, and there's some neat things there. But one of my primary messages is that all of this data is free to the public, and we will help you get access to it and make sense of it and figure out how to use it. So if you are a developer or interested in this sphere, think about some NASA content. And the benefit educationally is that kids become interested in science and space and math and all the tough stuff that they have to do in order to reach the goals of advanced aerospace engineering. Another quick message that I have is the technologies that we generate for aeronautics and space work don't just apply in those spheres. We've developed a lot of devices that have direct practical application to education and virtual worlds in particular. For example, biofeedback devices. We created a series of nodes that you can strap to your head and your chest for pilots on long-duration flights to make sure that they're paying attention. We've patented that and licensed it off to a company, two companies now, that develop biofeedback devices with video games. Kids wear a little helmet, and it trains them to focus on things. We have simple harnesses that you can wear for biofeedback for, like this. This isn't mine, this is yours. But we have those types of devices also that perhaps we could work to help you add another component or make yours smaller or simpler to use or something. So we have a lot of different technologies that have direct application here. Artificial intelligence and virtual reality type devices that are all available on technology.nasa.gov for industry and for the public. So people who are interested in, what does NASA have other than just all this cool content, and how can I come up with the next device or the next component or technology to make the interaction between the virtual world and the real world a little more real. We might have something that would be useful for you there. So we have a ton of content, we have a ton of technologies. So again, nasa.gov or technology.nasa.gov.
And you've been to the moon.
And we went to the moon.
I have to share, a ton of content is an understatement.
There's a lot.
There's so much content there.
We partnered with Google recently. They're making, well, it's been released, but Google Moon, you go to Google Earth, you can do the same thing with the moon now. And out at Ames Research Center in California, we have an old McDonald's building that we repurposed, and that's the Google Lunar Station, and NASA and the Google guys get together and work in there.
And I think Yelp is now instrumented the moon too, so
Yeah.
So you can find out
you can actually find the best
good
place
creators.
to eat. That's
Yeah.
right, best creators.
So let me just see. So you're looking for content or technology developers interested in content acquisition for their learning products.
Sure. Or people with technology that they can use an extra boost with, or interested in licensing or partnering for technology development.
Great. And how can they find you outside of the show today?
Oh, yeah, you can always contact me or technology.nasa.gov. It's our technology site, and you can browse a series of technologies we have available, and there's contacts for all of our different labs, and you can specify which types of technologies you're interested in, and then one of our specialists will get back to you within a couple days. And there's a link, contact us button, and I do monitor it, and people do respond to it. So.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Daniel.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Well, let me switch now to Fred and Wizard 101 and Pirate 101. As you know, we started, your numbers and traffic are pretty amazing. You have really strong engagement with your product. And in fact, your next closest competitor has only 3.5% market share compared to your 14.1. What's your secret sauce?
Yeah, it's a great question. On a more broad level, it's actually great to hear what all these people, all the panelists are doing, and I think it's one of the great things that we're seeing in this show, which is this concept of gaming has been morphing from an evil activity that was done by a set group of gamers in the basements to a really powerful, engaging activity from educational values and health values and just amazing content. And I think that's been a very growing market, and we've participated in that as well, being able to create a property that is engaging for not only a younger audience, but an all-age audience. And we have a huge percentage, over 40% of our players are outside of what I would consider to be our core demographic. And so what we have are families playing together and younger siblings playing with older siblings, and just a connectivity in an environment that's very safe and non-violent, and something that I think a lot of parents and grandparents can be proud that they're either participating in with their children or at least feel very comfortable that they're doing it. So I think that just as an industry, it's great to see this massive growth. It was kind of fun watching the last panel as well, where I think I just read that the largest segment of gamers right now is the diaper generation. So it's the still pooping in your pants generation playing on the pads and other devices. So it's a great time for gaming in general.
That's awesome. Thank you, Fred. Well, Jim, I also have great admiration for the educational worthiness of Yville and the amount of data you've collected. In fact, so much, I might ask you if you could talk a little bit about the educational effectiveness and the empirical data that you've collected over the years. I know that's a big question, if you can share just briefly.
Do you have a whiteboard?
Yeah.
So I won't answer your question. And the reason is because I can't.
Okay.
But it turns out that because we were interested in education from the beginning, the engine was instrumented completely to look at the data and understand what kids are doing. And because we have a fundamentally educational objective, we have from the beginning opened up the data and our engine to academic researchers. And there have been, I think actually Yville now has more academic papers published on it than certainly any other virtual world, and a lot of internet properties. In fact, there's a book which I did not write, was written completely independently, which is currently in press at MIT, which will come out in the summertime, which is completely about Yville, written by an academic education researcher named Yasmin Kafai. And from the beginning to the end, it's all Yville, and I just got the galleys, and I'm supposed to read it over to make sure she got it accurately. But anyway, so I will defer your question to Yasmin. I will say with respect to the diaper generation that the most disturbing thing that I've seen at CES this year is the potty trainer that includes a mount on the front of the potty for an iPad. I think that's... As a neurobiologist, I can tell you there's some connections there I don't think you want to make.
Thank you, Jim. I'll look for that on the floor. See if we can get a photo cut into the video.
I've got a photo of it right here.
And Zan, Geopalz is so unique. In fact, one could say that, it is a virtual digital experience, even more so than a world. And it's quite unique in its offering compared to what other things are out there on the market trying to get the attention of children. And I'm sure that's by design.
Yes, for sure. Yep.
Yes. So can you tell me a little bit about, some of the positive outcomes of your product, the people who are using it now,
Yeah,
briefly
sure.
with the time that we have.
So it's funny, we kind of started out with this product just seeing our kids at home and wondering, why are they sitting on the couch? Like when I was little, I was running around. I never saw my parents till dinner time. There was physical activity. You didn't have a cell phone. You didn't have a game attached to your hip. It was a different world. And that was kind of, we were fortunate enough to take some time off from work, and I actually saw my kids, and I'm like, I've got to do something. We've got to figure out a way to get them active. And so we started with our version 1, which was an accelerometer product. And we created basically an online world where they take their steps, they convert them into points on our website, on the Geopalz website. And their steps convert into points that they get to shop on our prize wall. Well, we figured we'd offer them like free prizes, jump ropes, frisbees, tchotchke kind of items. Well, we started losing the interest of the kids. We're like, well, how do we retain these children? And so we actually added another feature where we have a parent-directed prize wall. So the kids and the parents, the kids asking for a bike, or they want an iPod Touch, or they want some sort of gadget, the parents can actually drag anything from Amazon, attach it to the prize wall, and allocate how many steps it takes for them to earn that prize. So now it's like a parent-directed product that the parents are eventually going to buy for them anyway, but now they actually have to physically work for it. So that was kind of our evolution. We wanted to keep the kids engaged. And then we started seeing that kids were dropping off again. So we're like, well, we've got to add something else. Maybe it's the gaming side. So we actually went with a whole bunch of developers, and we actually put Flash games onto our website. And they're all based on time usage, based on how many steps you've taken that day. So if they have 10,000 steps, they'd get 15 minutes of playtime on our website. So the product has kind of slowly evolved, and now we have this wireless device, which is for the older generation, the kids that have the iPod Touches, and that's kind of where we've beginning to end solution.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you, Zan.
Thank you.
And thank you all. I think we do, is there time for questions? We have just a very brief amount of time for a question or two if anyone has any. Sorry?
How about questions while we're changing panels?
Question singular. Well, why don't I say thank you all for coming, and certainly reach out and speak with our panelists. If not, definitely check out their products and worlds and the massive content of NASA. And there'll be some other data to come out very soon in the virtual world space, and there we are.
Did they do a good job?